Hey, it's Nay. And welcome back to Nay's Little Garden and Home. So, we're continuing on. Like I said, we're creating this whole series, really getting into the nitty gritty of gardening. Today, we're going to be talking about soil versus dirt, how we can better your soil/dirt, and the ways you can go about it, and all those things. So grab your drink, grab your snack, and we're gonna just jump right into it. So first things first, soil and dirt are the same but different. So dirt is essentially just dead soil. How do we get to dead soil? Is by not having living organisms and things inside of said soil, right? So the soil in and of itself isn't like alive in the way we know it, right? However, when the soil is healthy, right, it's rich and full of complex ecosystem, right? So think microorganisms, minerals, water, air, beneficial microbes, fungi, all those different types of things. If you've heard like, oh, there's mushrooms growing in my soil, what should I do? And people go, oh no, that's a really good thing. That's because the mushrooms popping up, especially when you're not trying to have them pop up, are showing that there's beneficial microbes. There's life going on that would even cause the spore to attach and grow up from the soil, right? When you're looking at it and you're trying to figure out what you have in your backyard, right? Or whatever, let's say you've rented this as a plot. You gotta look. Dirt typically is like pale, it's powdery, it's dry. Soil is gonna be rich, dark, and when it's wet, it can clump up. Like you'll squeeze it and it will start retaining its shape. You are not guaranteed to have dirt in your backyard or just dirt in your backyard. You can have things like clay and sand, which is going to make growing a lot harder for most plants. Things like clay is very, very heavy, can be easily compacted, which makes it harder to actually grow things, right? Just want a little sunlight. Sand is, right, there's no living microorganisms like that in there to feed. So am I saying you can't grow anything and you still have soil that has dirt, clay or sand in it? No, you're just going to have to build it up, right? So how do we fix something like dirt or a soil that's not very nutritious or living, right, complex ecosystem that will make nutritious produce? If you've felt like or heard people talking about like the produce in the grocery store just doesn't taste the same as it used to. It doesn't have the same taste. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't react and feel the same. Is because typically and sometimes they don't stress the health of the soil. So you can go by, typically like two major ways when growing plants. You can go by feeding said plant directly, or you can feed the soil to make sure it's soil and there's a living ecosystem in there, and that will then feed the plants. When you want immediate, fast, and potentially even bigger harvests quickly, feeding the plant is going to be the choice to make for a lot of situations, especially when you have these big brands just trying to make money, right? That's all that matters, just making money. So they're gonna sit there and they're gonna put like chemical things, like amendments, because they're gonna feed the plants directly to force them to be bigger and all these other things. When you want to think of long term, like you're like, okay, I want to be able to just grow, and this is in anything. I'm not just talking in ground. This is also in your grow bags, in your pots, in your raised beds, all of these things. You want to create a type of living like life, okay? And then that's where you get your nutrients from the plants that you're consuming, because they're taking up nutrients from the soil. Adding organic matter in some way, shape, or form, as well as inorganic matter, is going to help you to build /fix /improve your soil. Things like, and these are the organic matters. Now, when I'm talking about organic here, when you hear organic and inorganic, don't think good, bad. Think things that you could find out in nature without the assistance of man, and things that you can you use man to create that can do some good, right? For inorganic. Organic material, think compost and manure. Manure is in fact poop. Okay? Compost is the breaking down of organic matter, which can be a lot of things. This is why you'll hear a lot of people talk about a compost bin. I'm not going to go too in depth about compost bins. I haven't particularly started one yet. I am trying to figure out a way I can do so and not pull any animals that I see on a regular to my backyard. So compost is something just about anyone can go ahead and make. It, like I said, it's just the breaking down of food. So as you eat food and you use produce and you don't use other parts of it, you can toss that in a compost bin, compost bucket, or whatever, and break it down. The thing about compost is there's also levels to that, because it's not just tossing all food to let it rot down, because then you also need like cardboard, and you need so it's like green and brown materials, and there's rules to it. You need to look it up. And everything I'm telling you here, we're gonna take a quick pause, a quick disclaimer. I am no pro at this. These are things I've learned myself through actual experience, as well as looking things up online, reading stuff up online, watching videos up online, and living the life, like I just said. So do your own research as well. This can be part of your research, but expand your research even more. Don't hear something once or twice and take it as law, because even though I'm not telling you anybody's lying to you, you might have different things that require different needs, right? The fastest, quickest way to figure out what is wrong with your soil or your dirt would be just to get a soil test. Do you absolutely need to do a soil test in order to fix your ground? Absolutely not. Do you need a soil test to go and fix your raised bed or your grow back? No. You really could just go by trial and error, which adding compost, adding manure. There are things like hot and cold manure. So depending on the animal, like chicken, for example, I've taken chicken poop with the wood shavings that are all natural, and I put it in my raised beds February, maybe January, maybe December, sometime in those 3 months. And so it has since rotted down. It is the last day of April right now, so it's definitely since rotted down, and it won't burn my plants. When you have hot manure, it could burn your plants if you're just tossing it immediately, and you don't want that. Then you have things like cold manure that you can use immediately upon use, which is like supposedly like bunny poop and stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure why some animals make hot manure and other ones make cold. That's something you can also look up for yourself. Worm castings and biochar are also some organic matter. Biochar is like burnt up charcoal, like bits, and like other materials like wood materials and stuff like that. Worm castings is basically worm poop. Guys, poop is really good. Now, I am not going to tell you to use human feces, because we consume things that may not necessarily be the best. And so then remember, what's coming out of them is nutrients from like an animal and stuff, and you're reusing those nutrients and breaking them down, and then the plants can take it up. So I'm gonna say stick with the animals just to be on the safe side. Then you have things like inorganic. Not like it's bad and full of bad stuff. Inorganic is, like I told you, it's just something we have taken apart to use for this. You wouldn't just find on average like azomite or gypsum or dolomitic lime just out in the forest randomly. Those are things that are inorganic materials that could be really good. That is really good for soil. You can definitely have too little or too much of anything. Too much of anything is a bad thing, no matter what it was. Too little of it obviously could be a really bad thing as well. Another thing you want to be mindful of is about tilling. Tilling is basically just like digging up your soil and turning it over. I think if you're gonna do in-ground, you definitely should probably, depending on the soil you have, if you already have fluffy soil that's healthy and all that, you wouldn't need to till it, but odds are you're probably gonna have compacted soil. So I think the best course of action would be to till it one time to get the soil alive, and then go ahead and add what you need to add to it to try to bring back life to it, and then try not to do that again. Because in there, like I said, is a complex ecosystem. If you are tilling up the worms and accidentally poking them with the fork and all this other things and disheveling the beetles and the spiders and all, you're messing up their home. You're messing up what they created in order to keep feeding, and then they might leave. That is a problem. That's not good. You don't want to mess too much with the tilling of the soil, okay? The next thing I would say is soil, healthy soil, does not like to be barren. It doesn't like to be empty. So you can put something in it, or the earth is gonna do it for you, and in the way of like grass or weeds, and then you're gonna be upset. So things like cover crops or plants that you are gonna consume, or even like flowers, try to keep that fairly consistent. Obviously, if you get really cold winters, like it gets quite cold here, like we get snow, that point that's very different. But the times that you can grow something, be growing something in that soil, because you got to keep the soil protected. And or mulching the soil, right? You're protecting the soil from being charred by the sun, drying out, all those good things. And mulch is also an organic material, right? If you don't, make sure the mulch is not like colored or anything, like just regular mulch that will break down and give your soil a lot of nutrition, right? That's almost like it's not composting, but you get what I'm saying? Like it's breaking down like something in a compost bin would do, and then creating more nutrients for the soil to take up to feed the complex ecosystem that's living in the soil to then feed the plants. Biodiversity is important. Diversity is important in life. Some more things that could be organic matter you can add would be like leaf mold, peat moss, coco coir. I said biochar already. Compost and manure and leaf mold are feeding directly into the living ecosystem there. The peat moss and coco coir is more for improving the soil's texture. So it's like fluffing it up, making it a little more, loose. Biochar, we already discussed that. I want to talk about, outside of those things, something that is much more popular to people who do not garden and stuff like that would be something called fertilizer, right? There are chemical fertilizers and organic fertilizers. That's kind of the two big brackets. And then under that, you can do liquid fertilizer or physical fertilizer. Here is a physical fertilizer. I do recommend this brand. This is the second time I finished an entire bag of this, and I've already started going into this. I do recommend this, but I'm not showing you this to sell this to you. I'm going to explain to you why this is good, so that you can go into a big box store or a greenhouse or online and find whatever works in your budget and that interests you and whatever. This is from M.I. Gardner. This is his Trifecta Plus. This is 5, 10, 4. What are these numbers? Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. NPK. The K is potassium. I know it doesn't start with the K. That's just how it is. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are like the main characters of gardening when you're thinking about doing good things for your plants. When you look into something organic like this, it's gonna feed your plants, but it's gonna also help with the soil. So this helps with long-term gardening. The description says, the ultimate soil supercharger for organic gardening with added trace minerals, beneficial bacteria, and fungi. I posted a video already. Please go check it out. I basically ran just a little bit through this. So it's 5, 10, 4. So there's 5 of nitrogen in here, 10 of the phosphorus, and 4 of the potassium. Now, the side main characters for good soil health and good plant growth and all that are calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. What's great is in here also includes calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. What's also great, as they stated, they have some non-plant food ingredients, which is the trace minerals, bacteria, and fungi. This is not directly for the plants. This is for the soil that will then feed the plants. So this is feeding the plants, but then also feeding the soil. So getting a relatively immediate results and then getting long-term results. You definitely want long-term results, but if you can mix the two and get both long-term and a bit faster results, that would be, in my opinion, optimal. So you get in here, you have like bone meal, green sand, potash, kelp meal, blood meal, poultry manure, urea, feather meal, cottonseed meal, dolomitic lime, feather meal, calcium dihydrate, rock gypsum, Epsom salt, azomite, rock phosphate, chelated iron, alfalfa meal, rock sulfate, and humic acid. This is great. They also have on here the application rate. This is 6 pounds of stuff, and this is telling me that for once a year, you can give 3 tablespoons per plant, and it should be good. Alliums, 2 tablespoons, root vegetables, 2 tablespoons, and heavy feeding plants, 1/4 cup per plant once a year. Herbs, annuals/perennials need 3 tablespoons per plant 1 to 2 times a year. House plants, 2 tablespoons per plant twice a year. Seedlings, 3 tablespoons per gallon of soil. This is great. I also just be tossing some of this in there. I'm going to be very frank with you. You can most definitely get a lot of these ingredients separately and mix it up yourself and be tossing it around. They got a whole lot of rhizides here, endomycorrhizae, ectomycorrhizae, rhizobacteria, beneficial fungi, and then the list of all of these things. You can look up all these things yourself. This is a good one. Then you have something like liquid fertilizer. M.I. Gardner has this Reviver X emergency fertilizer. Restore, vitalize, nourish, energize. This is soluble. The major difference between the solid fertilizer and the liquid fertilizer is that the liquid fertilizer gets taken up by plants in the soil immediately. It's liquid, right? You mix it with some water and it drinks it up immediately. You ever notice how a plant starts dying because it needs water, and then you add water and quite rapidly it perks back up? It's basically just giving it a train to move faster and immediately assist the plants. Versus solid fertilizer is still gonna give the plants quite reasonable enough time, but it's just gonna take a little longer and feed the plant longer because it's breaking down in the soil, and as it's breaking down over time, it keeps giving nutrition. I believe both are good. They're both going to do good things because about twice a year, right, I'm going to use this. This will go directly into my soil, and this will go maybe I tossed this into my soil last year, but then I also will toss this while I'm either right before I plant up my plants or when I'm planting on my plants. And then probably again at the end of the growth season. This liquid is what I will be feeding my plants throughout the year. Revive RX is a natural-based liquid blend fertilizer guaranteed to provide fast results to help heal and restore stressed plants, increase growth, and help your garden reach its maximum potential. We have harnessed the power of Mother Nature in this bottle using the finest ingredients possible to boost plant immune systems, feed and restore soil fertility, and boost plant growth. The elements can take a toll on your plants, leaving even the strongest garden looking battered. Give your garden the upper hand with Revive RX. This is just, the trace minerals in here. It helps increase microbial activity, humic, fulvic, and lysine aminos. 40 plus trace minerals derived from kelp. So in here you have 9% nitrogen. Remember I said NPK. 1% phosphate, 1% potash. Copper has 0.05% and iron has 0.1%. So this is going to do some good stuff. I am not saying you have to buy this. Look into liquid fertilizers in your area or online. I do enjoy this. This is also the second bottle I've used. And what's also really great is on here, they are labeling here so you can see like the ounces. I think the best bet would be using both. The next best bet, in my opinion, this is just me being honest with you, when you're newer to gardening, it depends on what you are using to garden. So if you are gardening in ground and you are trying to build your soil, in my humble opinion, and you want quicker results and you need quicker results, liquid fertilizer, because you're going to keep using it and keep fertilizing. Let's say every 2 weeks, you're going to add this to the water when you go to water your plants and water those plants and keep giving it nutrition as it's trying to feed the plants itself and also feed the soil. If you end up having extra funds, I really think that the solid fertilizer is also quite beneficial because, like I said, it's helping long term. It's breaking down, it's giving nutrition and all that good stuff. Either one. If you feel like you don't mind waiting longer, you can get the solid fertilizer and keep it pushing. And it's gonna last longer than, say, like a liquid fertilizer. I was kind of tossing this all over the place, which is why I ended up finishing a bag, but it should typically last you a while, especially if you have a smaller garden. There's a lot more information and you can get a lot more scientific. I am not a scientist. I did not go to school for this. Like I said, my experience comes from quite literally living the life of growing plants as well as watching videos and reading information about it. I even, I repeatedly write down over and over again notes, and the more I write it down, the more I watch it, the more I can take it in. And then when I actually apply said logic to the garden, and I grow in multiple different ways, in pots, in grow bags, in raised beds, in my green stalks. I try to grow in ground. There's a chance I might do that at some point. But yeah, the only stuff growing in ground for me right now is my trees. Yeah. So go ahead and let's talk down in the comment section below about soil versus dirt. How is your soil doing? Do you feel like you have all the nutrition you need in your soil in order to grow healthy, strong plants that give you quality ingredients, right? So I feel like so many people love to fearmonger. At the end of the day, because you're growing it, you know what's going into it. I'm going to kind of leave it at that. Whereas obviously if you buy it somewhere else, that's not like, even like a local, like obviously local greenhouses and stuff are also thinking about stuff like that. But bigger box stores, they're not growing it here, so they're shipping it. And a lot of these stores have to think about longevity. How long is something going to last so that it can sit on the shelf, so that it can sit in a truck or a car or whatever, plane, and get to you across long distances. And so flavor and nutrition is not always the biggest importance for them, not always. And so now you can worry about that. You can worry about nutrition. You can worry about the quality of it when you're growing it yourself. And you have so many more options when you sit here and grow it yourself. I think you'd also be surprised who'd be willing to give a plant or two, where you give a couple dollars and they'll give you a plant. If you don't want to attempt starting from seed, or you're not the best at it yet, talk to gardeners in your area and see what happens. You'll be surprised who would be willing. Oh, you got $5, I'll give you 4 plants. I'll give 5, whatever. You know what I mean? Or whatever. I'm not giving them a price. I'm just saying in general, because you'll find there are hundreds to thousands of different varieties of most vegetables, So you're sitting there like, oh, there's only 6 type of peppers. No, girl. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. There are 10 different varieties of tomatoes. Boy, there are, I feel like, thousands at this point of tomato varieties, and so you can get real creative and have a lot of fun while also learning and enjoying. I feel like because you're going through the process of growing your own produce, you can really appreciate it as well. Does that make sense? You're going to go through your own bumps, but I feel like you're going to end up appreciating it more and really grasping and understanding, like, garden to plate, farm to plate. And that almost makes you appreciate it more. Thank you so much for watching this whole video. There are more videos that are coming out where I'm going to break down about gardening in a multitude of different ways. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, that like button. Hopefully I see you in my next video. Bye-bye.